Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you all are doing good. So, today I'm back with an interesting topic. I've received many emails and messages asking how or what is a checklist that they have to ask before joining any live project training. So, this especially for those who have like board messages and emails about this topic. So I came up with the following checklist, guys. I feel these are the important questions that you need to check with your trainer or with your institute before you pay, like lump sum amounts of money. So let's go deep into this. So the first thing that you need to check is what is the domain that they are giving you a training for. So when you ask for live project training, right, you need to know or you need to understand like what sector of or what domain is the project especially in. So usually you have the banking domain, you have a telecom, and you have e-commerce, and you have so many different domains, right, like finance, insurance, etc. So before you actually start talking anything about it, better to check the domain name or domain sector. And also I feel it's important for you to check the list of domains that they provide training for. So you can pick something which you are really interested in or on which you have some little info before you get started. So usually there would be one interesting domain for you also, right? So before you get started with the actual training, right, see if they have offers for multiple different domains, and so you have a choice to pick one whatever you like the most. So this is one thing that I would check before I join any live project training. The second one is the end client. So end client is very important. You have to have basic knowledge of your client whom you are serving, right? So you are doing a project, you are testing your project, and you should know who the users are. So basically the big companies, right, usually they have like Bank of America client or Wells Fargo client if it's a banking domain, or Vodafone or an Idea service provider, or the Idea clients in case of telecom domain. So basically it's always good to have little idea about the client and why they need your project. Like when you are working on a project, right, why are they paying you so much of money, okay, in advance to get the things served. So you should definitely seek that kind of information or ask that kind of information from your trainer, because this would be the most frequently asked interview question again. And coming to the next one, how many number of users are there. So this is again an important question. So based on the complexity of your project, right, usually the end users will differ. So this might be one of the questions. So you don't have to exactly give them the correct number, but you should have in advance knowledge of how many, like on an average, are the number of users using the application that you tested. All right. And the next one is SQL interaction. So you might have to ask him, like, how much percentage of SQL interaction do I have in this project. So some of them will have 20% of SQL interactions. So 20% being the minimum, right? Like you just you on the UI, you see a value, you go to the database, write a query, and make sure that the value matches, something like that. But in this case, the why is that important is when the interviewer is asking you, like in future, right, if he asked you that have you written any stored procedures, you can tell him that the application that you worked on did not have much interaction with SQL. It only had 20% of interaction. So all these questions are very important for you because they actually give you confidence when you are sitting in front of the interviewer. So when everything, whatever the live project training that you are taking, it would come to an end when it's all for you to get trained, right? So when the interviewer is asking you about the SQL interactions and complex questions, your answer might be no too. But you should confidently project to him that your application only demanded 20% of interaction, so you never got a chance, or you never had any interaction, like with the database wherein you had exclusively written any stored procedures of your own to test something. So that percentage is very important. So these are the things which you have to discuss with your institute or your trainer before you actually get into the project training. The same way we have API testing also. So before your UI has been built, if for example, if you were involved in any of the API testing, how much percentage was it? What did you test, like the request responses, right? So what kind of assertions you made on the responses, the basic things. So you should have a percentage of API testing, like 30%. If you have covered, what are the things that you tested? So in case if you have like more strong questions from the interview, you can at least tell him that you have been involved only 30% of your time into this API testing and not much, something like that. Okay, just a heads up for you guys, so that you can discuss this with your trainer. UI testing is also in the same way. So for example, what level of UI is involved in the application that you are testing, and how many screens does it have, what is interaction, what is the connection between these screens, and what are the questions that you can expect from the UI testing that you're doing, from the UI, what are the complex UI elements that you have tested, etc. And then UNIX logs. So some applications, right, when you're testing something, right, there are some ways where you send that data that you tested to a FTP location, and from where, for example, system X wants some data, so system X daily comes to this FTP location to pick up the files that you tested. So in that case, you need to make sure that whatever you tested is going to that FTP location correctly and sitting there, so that the system X can pick it up. So some of the applications demand this kind of Unix testing also. So you need to check whether you're getting trained in this area. And upstreams. I'm sorry. So this is also an important question, guys. So before you getting started with your testing, is there any data that you need to wait for? Are there any dependencies that before you start your testing, do you have any more dependencies? For example, right, in one of my applications, whatever processing I have to do, I need to get data from system A. Only then I can start my testing. So every day a batch runs which loads all the data from system A into my application. So during my working work timings, right, I usually test that data. Whatever processing my application does, it does on the data that it is receiving from application A. So in this case, at my upstream would be the application A. So it is very important for you to understand the flow of the data if you have any upstreams. Again, the answer here might be yes or no. Some of the applications doesn't need any upstreams. This right away start looking into their application, do some processing, etc. But some of the applications do have the upstream systems from where the data is loaded before they actually start their testing. So you can frame your answer based on that and get knowledge of your application or the project. And next comes the downstreams. Downstreams is again, in the case of Unix logs, we talked about some system X picking the files that you tested from the FTP location, right? In that case, system X is your downstream. So based on the complexity of your project, there might be number of downstreams. So I remember in one of my project, there were 40 different downstream applications which consume the data that we tested. So there can be 0 downstreams also. So just to get an awareness of the project, right, you need to get these terms familiarized with. And the next question that I would ask is what the methodology that they are following. Nobody is following waterfall these days, but again, you should just have a word with the trainer. So if that's an agile project or a waterfall model. And in case of agile, right, what is the release cycle, like how many production installs they have, how many sprints they have in that project, and how are they time boxed, 2 week sprint or 3 week sprint, whatever, right? You need to discuss that. And then the production issues. So in case of any production issues, how are they going to be dealt with? Or before you joining into the application, do they have any prod issues and how were they resolved, something like that. Okay, you need to get awareness of the production issues. And then comes the SLAs. It's an important topic. So the SLA stands for service level agreement. So in case you're working for a client, right, before the contract is signed, right, they talk about SLAs. So in case in production, if they have any bugs, what is the time frame that you promise them to get it resolved. So usually it would be 8 hours or 2 days, whatever, based on how you talk to your client. So based on that, your contract would be signed on. So these SLAs are very important, so you might be asked about the SLAs too. And then so far we have talked about project. Now this is something, the most challenging task that you have ever encountered in the project. So once you understand the architecture of the project, and once you gain the knowledge of upstreams and downstreams end to end flow, right, you should be good to answer the most challenging task that you have faced. In case you have something in your mind, discuss it with your trainer and get the right answers for it. If not, you can ask him, like, in this project that you have trained, would you be also covering this part where I can answer this question? So he can come up with a good question which you can actually project it in your interview. And last but not the least is the team coordination. So usually we have so many US based projects and different countries projects, right? So if in case your client is a US based client and you work from India, how are you coordinating in resolving the issues? Do you have any onshore over there to resolve the issues, or how do you work with? So the same thing vice versa, if you are working in US and you have a client in India, right? How, if what in case, due to different time zones, right, if the interviewer is expecting you to hire for a project which is on different geographic location, he would definitely ask you this question, if you have any prior experience in coordinating these things like this. So you need to check this also with your trainer. Based on my experience, guys, these are the 15 things that I would definitely check with my institute before I join any live project training. So if you think there are any more points beyond these 15, feel free to put them in the comment section. Any little piece of information would be helpful to a number of guys who are waiting. So I personally want to tell you that I've received so many messages in this area, so that's the reason I'm making this video specially for them. So your piece of information can help anyone, so feel free to drop a message in the comment section. And also, happy testing. I would meet you all soon in my next video. Thank you guys, bye bye.